They have two new, we've got pumps 1 and 2 complete. We're waiting on a VFD for one of the pumps that you guys approved, I think, last month to get that in. The pumps 3 and 4, the gate that shuts off the flow into the cell where those two pumps are has broke, so we got to get that fixed. So we're working on trying to get that accomplished. So that's where we're at on that. So one thing is almost complete, thankfully, down there. The belt press, I think we have all the material in now, so we're just waiting to schedule a time for that to be rebuilt when our sludge process drops. It'll be summertime, probably July. We're looking at trying to get that started. They think
You do that in-house?
no, that's being done by Alpha Valve, the company that built they actually rebuild them themselves too, so it's not like you're outsourcing, it's from the factory. So when it's done, it will be a completely rebuilt belt press other than the framework. Everything else will be new in it, so that should last another 40 years before anybody has to worry about doing anything with that. We may not be pressing sludge in 40 years. Who knows what's gonna happen, but.
Yeah.
So on that, it's budget time, so we're working on the budget. This year's budget, we're gonna put in, we'll see if it goes through. We need a new crane truck. We need a bigger one because the pumps and motors are getting bigger and our little crane truck won't pick up 3 lift stations pumps. So we have to get a bigger crane truck for that. I'll be putting in the budget in water and wastewater. A new mini excavator. We're going to go to a mini excavator rather than a backhoe. We'll keep our backhoe as backup, but we found using the other departments' minis when we could get them, it does a lot less damage and it's a lot easier to work with. So we're going to be putting that all split in between water and wastewater. So that's the 2 biggest ticket items I think we're looking at right now. So once we get it done, I'll get it to you guys like I try to do every year, and then so you can look it over before it's final.
I got 2 questions. Number one, how much longer is Front Street gonna be?
For the water?
Yeah, repaved and all that stuff?
Oh, repaving, I don't think they're doing that until 27 now. I think that's been,
Well, they're-
yeah, some other things, but anyway, our project should be done by the end of next month. I know I said it would take a month, but, every time we put the bucket on the ground down there, we find something that
Well,
slows us down.
the second question I have is that, up in Herman where they had all that rain, and they had, apparently the wastewater pretty much took out the library and a couple of other buildings. And we've had problems down on Front Street with wastewater. Is that mostly taken care of now? Where it would be backing up, because apparently they had 4 or 5 major buildings up there that got hammered pretty good.
Yeah. On our end of it, when we found the blockage in the trunk line down there, that helped out a whole lot. Did it fix the problem completely? No, but it helped out a whole lot. So we're working with Cochran Engineering right now to try and figure out what the best avenue would be to go down to try and help alleviate more of the problem. There's some thinking that we should retain all the sewage while it comes down the storm and then let it leave. That's not best practices for wastewater. Best practices for wastewater is to move it to where it needs to be. So we're looking at 2 different options. Option 1 would be to build a big tank down there and retain it at the lift station until everything's slowed down. But that doesn't fix the problem. The real problem is moving the sewage. Our force main that leaves Walnut Street to get down to the treatment plant can only carry 2,300 gallons a minute. That's max it can carry. On these heavy big rains where we get 7-8 inches, which we seem to get every year now, we're unable to move the sewage from Walnut Street to the treatment plant. So we're looking at storage, and we're also looking at upsizing the force main down to Walnut Street. If we don't do something at Walnut Street, from Walnut Street to the treatment plant, we can do everything. We can throw all the money we want to the west end of town, but if you can't move it, the more that it grows out west, it's just going to always be a problem. So we need to fix the front end before we can fix the back end. The front end is the force main, so we're looking at
So conceivably, though, we could have the same kinds of issues with a big, or not.
Well, no, I'm gonna say no, just because we went through that big rain that Herman went through, we all went through the same thing, and we only had a couple issues. We had our manhole, of course, that bounced on Main Street, on Front Street, but we never received any calls of backups down there. Not that it didn't happen and somebody didn't call us, but we just never received any calls. So to see that happen, the only thing that would happen there is if we had a flood of 93, like we had in 93, then you would probably see something like that. But right now, because we made it through that, yeah, was we pumping for 8 hours at max at Walnut Street, and was we trying to move everything, and did we spend a lot of hours down there? Yes, we did, but we didn't have the I would call catastrophic backups like what Herman had, because that is pretty catastrophic when that happens to that many businesses. So I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen.
No, I
but,
just was curious.
We're doing everything we can, and with you guys' help, doing everything we can to try and alleviate that as much as we can. So there is some things in the works. There hasn't been anything brought up yet for me to bring to you guys, to the board yet to discuss, so it's kind of, that's why we haven't talked about it. We're the very ground floor, so, but.
Speaking of the flood in 93, is the equipment for the force main down at the foot of Walnut, is that at the right elevation?
Yeah, 93, I wasn't here, but I got to hear all the stories, which was wonderful. In 93, they had to sandbag the door to keep it from getting inside the station, so it never went underwater.
Okay.
West End did, Westlink did, but Walnut Street never went underwater. Since then, we've completely rebuilt that station, and that station is now designed to be flooded. It could flood now, and everything would continue to operate.
Okay.
So that's kind of what, when we rebuilt it, it was like, do we go back to the same thing we've got where something could happen, or do we go to something that can't happen? So what we've got in there now is what they call dry run submersibles. So they'll run dry because they're cooled with a coolant, but if they go underwater, they still run. So yeah, that station could be completely full all the way up to the controls, and it would still be operating. We'd be pumping a whole lot of storm water, but it would still be
Right,
operating.
Yeah, okay.
And the treatment plant's designed to take storm water in. The way it was built, it's designed to take that heavy flow. We just gotta get it to it. If we could get it to the treatment plant, it will do its work and do its job. We just can't get it there, so.
Is there any type of timeline on that project? We're talking, I mean, are we gonna try to alleviate it in 26 or 27, or we just,
Well, from the initial cost that we had proposal that we think it may cost, it may not be till 29, 30 by the time revenue gets built up. We're looking at the rough number that Cochran threw out for a new force main or even a retention is you're looking at well over $1 million on either side to do it. So, yeah, it's
Is
gonna
there a
take
way
bit.
is there a way for that project to be done in phases on the construction end of it? I realize you can't use a force main unless point A to point Z is complete, but if you were to build a certain, I mean, that's a long way down there from the riverfront to the main.
Could you build it in stages? You could, you just wouldn't be able to use it, so you'd build it and it'd have to
You'd be
sit there.
burying it, digging and
And then
burying
you'd
the
come back
pipe.
and you'd build some more and it'd sit there, and then you'd build some more and it'd sit there.
Right.
All while you were still having that problem, and everybody would be saying, well, how come we haven't finished the other project and not have that problem? So,
You'd have a half-assed project for a while.
for,
pardon my
yeah,
French.
yeah, for a while. So,
I mean,
we-
I get it that the funding is not there now, but, you know, if you're $1 million today, you're.
well, yeah, and that's the whole
you're
thing, so.
5, 6, 7,
Yeah, once we actually get the information gathered and we come up with a plan, that's when we'll start figuring out how we're gonna pay for it. Because until we get the true cost, it was just an estimate. If you take this much and you add this much, So once we get that, we have some options, very limited, but we have some options. We can't get grants. We are what they call the right, wrong size community. Washington is a wonderful town. Unfortunately, our per capita median is too high to meet for any grants through DNR, so we can't get grants. We can get low-interest SRF loans through the department. We can borrow money. We could try to see if we could borrow money internally from stormwater, or from, I always say, everybody says stormwater, that's not, but all we can do is borrow money. We can't, or gain money from revenues. We can't just get money given to us. So, that's where we have to make that decision at some point in time is, when do we want to pull the trigger? Is it, do we borrow money and pay it off, or do we, so anyway, that's kind of where we're sitting. And everybody always says, Kevin, well, why don't you go out and get grants? Well, we've tried. We cannot get grants for the water or sewer
run
side.
some sort of a capital campaign again?
Um,
Like a 2% or, I don't know, whatever.
You
the
threw like the
number-
half-cent sales tax
Yeah,
or
something like
whatever?
that.
Well, we've been deemed to be self-sufficient as enterprise funds, so all the revenues that we work off of are the revenues that's generated from water sales and sewer sales. So I doubt if I could talk Darren into letting us come back on a half-cent sales tax.
For us, because we have improved to the point where.
Yeah, our revenues are growing since we changed, since we did our sewer rate increase, since we raised the connection fees, which hadn't been raised forever. So the wastewater and the water side are starting to come back out of the red slowly. So, I don't know how many years it would take, but, it's something that we need to keep. This project down on Front Street is something that we need to always talk about to keep it alive so that it doesn't get dropped. But to give you a time when we can start, until we get all the information and know exactly what it's gonna cost, it's kinda hard to say. I'd like to see it done next year. Don't get me wrong. We would love to see it done because we're the guys out there every time it rains, trying to keep everything where it's supposed to be. We spend a lot of hours, so there's a lot of man hours put into it. So tomorrow would be wonderful, but that's not gonna happen. But, so.
Guess we're looking at possibly something on the west side of town. If we get a big industry in town that wants to come to us, that needs major processing of water, then that's a factor. Do we build a treatment plant on the west side of town, which would alleviate Front Street?
Well,
A lot of it. And that generates its own operating issues and everything else, but it is options. We also have the option that if a big factory comes into town and we need to increase and improve our infrastructure, they help pay for it. I mean, there's options out there, but it's not happening right now, and our problem is right now, so we just gotta figure it out, but, we'll keep working on it. As I get more information, I'll bring it to you guys and let you know where we're at, and we'll just
I
keep.
just say we need to obviously be prepared to answer because the questions will come up.
Yes.
That if we decide 6, 7 years from now, it's time to pull the trigger on it, the questions will come up. Well, you knew about this 6, 7 years ago, and the cost, what was the cost then? Well, you're gonna tell them $1 million, and now you're gonna tell them it's exponentially more.
Oh, no,
To be prepared to how we handle that.
yeah.
So yeah, I think this obviously needs to stay.
Yeah, it does, and we'll build a time, like I said, once we get all the information and actually get a plan in place, we'll really, then we'll become really aggressive on when can we get it done? Because we'll be able to somewhat project additional costs, if we wait this year, it's gonna cost X amount. If we wait, we'll be able to do that then. And it's just gonna be a matter of, at some point in time, we'll have to pull the trigger, and how we do it is what we'll have to decide. But
first
right
thing-
now, there's not enough.
yeah. Cochran's looking at a way to,
Yeah, right now, there's not enough information, and there'll have to be some big decisions made at that point in time. Do we retain it and try and make that work? And then go down the path with DNR, who I was told through my inspector that we just had our sanitary survey on the collection side 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And his answer to me when I asked him if that was a good idea, would the DNR approve it, he said absolutely not. So, but he's not the engineering side, he's the inspection side. So there's things that we gotta look at once we get all this into place. So there's still a lot of moving parts in this project, but,
So long-term, would it, to the mayor's point, would it be worth it to just build another one someplace?
well, if you don't have the revenues coming in to pay the cost of it, you're looking, if we built a plant out there now, I don't know what size, our 4 million gallon plant cost us $20 million 12 years ago.
yeah.
If we built one of the same size, you're probably looking at 60 million. I mean, then who pays for it? I mean, yeah, you get a big factory out there, okay, they pay a chunk of it, but ultimately the residents, we pay for it.
Might have to have a second fare.
Or start playing the lottery.
So yeah, there's all kinds of options and there's all kinds of things that could happen. Now, if we would see a bunch of big growth out west, then yeah, we'd really have to look at it because growth out west, everything that goes west comes east down Front Street. Everything that goes out there would have to come this way. So, you know,
Pipe ain't big enough for
yeah,
that.
it's not big enough. But there's no,
But it might be
that'd
cheaper
be the
to, it
crystal
might
ball.
be cheaper to upgrade that Walnut Street and then expand our plant out there
Yes.
as opposed to build a whole new
A
plant.
whole new plant. If we can, if that, and that's what, the key to sewer is to move it. If we can move it and get to the point that it needs to be, then we can manage it and control it a lot better. It's getting it there, so, yeah, it's,
Because I would suspect the cost to enlarge our existing plant or grow that capacity would be cheaper than building a whole new plant.
it would be cheaper. We've got we actually, had an estimate if we was to have done it this year, it would have been $12 million to expand it to 6 million today. That's today. Now, next year, year after, I mean, you know, we could have a great turnaround and everything could go back to the way it was. It's not gonna happen, but, yeah, but the plant was built for that. That's the thing. The plant was built for 6 million gallons. Right now, we're running about 2.3 at a 4 million design right now. So we've still got space at the plant. The plant is designed for heavy flow. It's just getting it to it. So that's where we're at on wastewater.
All right,
Water,
let's go to freshwater, see what. we
fresh
got
water,
there.
the clean side.
Pressure up,
The city of Washington is not changing the pressure of the system. The city of Washington cannot change the pressure in the city. The standard pressure for the city of Washington at this building right here used to always be the pressure centralized point is 82 pounds. Front Street, it's 110 pounds. Caleb Court, up there off of Beaker Road, it's about 35 pounds.
That's where my
Lilac,
household
it's
is,
about
right?
35. Stonecrest runs about 50-ish pounds. Carmel Lane, it's 23 pounds at the very top of the hill. We are required by the Department of Natural Resources to deliver 20 pounds at the point of entry to a residence. That means where the line comes into into your building, we have to give you 20 pounds of pressure by regulation. They're trying to change it to 23, but anyway, 20 pounds, or 32, not 23, 32. So that's what we're required to do. We give everybody in Washington at the point of entry gets at least 20 PSI. The max anybody can get is on Front Street at about 120. Well 9, or well 6 and well 4 in that area over there, 9th Street, 8th Street, those two wells sit static at about 92 pounds. They run at about 112 pounds. Why? It's a hydraulic mystery. I don't know why it does it, but that's what we've got. So the pressure in Washington is not adjusted by anything other than the tanks. We're an elevated system. So all those people on all those Facebook posts and all them What's Up Washmo posts that everybody knows what's going on and half of them don't even live in town, the city of Washington is not increasing their water pressure.
all right.
Front Street's going along, I mean, it's going good considering it's Front Street. The guy, we're down to, Kerry, did we make it through Olive Street yesterday?
They're working on a fire hydrant yesterday, so.
Okay, I know at the end of the day, they started digging again. So we're at Olive Street right now. We have everything from Market to Cedar, I guess, is charged with all the new fire hydrants and everything. We've got, I think, everybody tied back in through that stretch. So we're gonna be moving through the, Cedar Street, or Olive Street to, I guess, well, Stafford's the next one, so we'll be running through that whole stretch. Hopefully we get that done in the next couple weeks. And then, street department's gonna come behind us and pave everything that we did. And then, when we get done, I think then the street department at some point in time might be putting electric in down there, so there'll be a whole nother project going on. So, we should have our part done within, well, I'm gonna go out and say by the end of next month. We should have it done, not barn, anything happening. If we have a water main break, the crew on Front Street gets pulled off of that and they go work on a water main break. If we have a sewer problem, the crew on Front Street gets pulled off that and they go work on that. So you just gotta, carries my floater. He's my guy that floats around and gets everything else done. Everybody else is on either doing meter work, locates, and Front Street, so. Other than that, water's doing really good. Our samples always come back good, but we chlorinate, so that's the way that is. I am looking at, or we are looking at, we're looking at changing our chlorine injection system process that we're doing. Right now, we use pumps, and we pump the chlorine from the pump into the system, which generates pressure in the lines of the pumps for the chlorine, and they develop pinholes, and we spray chlorine all over the buildings, so that's not good. So we're trying out what they call a gravity feed system that actually sucks the chlorine out and into the system rather than pumping and pressurizing it. Safer for the buildings, safer for the operators that have to walk in on that stuff because it's pure chlorine, 14%. So it's strong. So we're working on that. That is budgeted. I do have it budgeted. So we're just trying to get one in stock so that we can get it installed so that we can see if it works or not. So anyway, so that's something we're doing on that too.
Stuff when I was
Okay.
good one got walk in.
I gave you guys a whole lot of information with just very little on the agenda.
The next line is other, but I can't imagine anything we haven't already talked
I
about.
think I ran out of stuff.
Gary, Gary, Kevin, still thinking about getting your old balls. Anyways, in hindsight, would it be better to contract that water line put in at Front Street since you're so busy with other things?
It would always be better, but we would pay twice as much to get it done.
Okay.
So, I said it last night, I say it all the time, my job is to try and save as much money for us as we can, and the residents of the city of Washington. And if we can do it in-house, it takes us away from other things that we have to then get caught up on, but if we can save that money, it helps on everything else we're doing. So, we try to do as much as we can in-house. Ideally, it would have been great to contract that out. It'd be great to contract out my Mr. Manhole stuff. But that's not what we do. So, anyway.
Just asking.
Yeah, good question. But yes, it would be. We'd be able to do other things, but we'd pay more. So,
Thank you.
Any other comments? Darren, Mayor? Nothing. Anybody? All right. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 24th. With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. I didn't
thank you
mean
very much.
to ask the question, but it was.
Oh, no, well, that's what this is
I
about.
thought, hell, we'll be out of here in 5 minutes.
I apologize, boys. The only reason it came up was my wife. On this one, I'm gonna She came walking in the other day and says, what would you guys do if this happened downtown? They got a problem because all the books got,
You're new too.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, all right.
all the books got.
I'm gonna let you take that back. Lee. Yeah.
You too. His insurance seems to want to cover it, pretty much, because it's not in the flood stage.
See you guys, thank you.
You bet.
A lot of information. See you, Joe.
See you guys. Thanks. Yeah, there's
So,
we could have a meeting like this every month if you guys want to. I could give you this kind of update every month if you want.
We're good for a while.
We just kind of I got on a roll, sorry.
Well, it was my fault. I should not have asked.
this
But
kind of,
my wife is on the library board up for Scenic Regional, and she came in and said, well, what'd you do if this happened, because they're not in a floodplain like the library up there? Right. And they're gonna have a hell of a bill, and they're not sure how they're gonna take care of the hell of a bill.
Yeah,
See y'all.
Oops,
Have a
got
good
one.
day.
You too.
yeah, we worry about it every time it rains. Believe me, when I say we, myself and Terry, we're up all night. I'm watching the SCADA system. He's most of the time in here. We're talking all night long, when this happens. How's this? Where's this? How's it? It's our job. Let's put it
Yeah,
that
and I
way.
mean, there's not a damn thing you can do to
No,
control
we,
some of it.
you know, but I do know, being here long enough, like I said in our meeting last night, I've been here a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff. Been dealing with this Front Street. I've been here 25 years this month. The 15th of this month makes 25 years. Been dealing with Front Street for 25 years. It was dealing with Front Street before I came here, the same way. It's been the same thing over and over. We've improved it by finding our problems and fixing them. It's getting better. But this has been a problem that I would like to call this a forever problem. It seems like, ever since, it's
So
been
is
forever.
So is Zick and Voss, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we finally got those guys taken care of with some plugs and some other things that helped out, so the Front Street is our biggest nemesis in the department, it is.
Especially when
And-
you send poop that far from the west side of
Yeah.
town. And it all,
So
Going
when all that stuff on Fifth Street goes in, up by the car wash, how much impact will that make? I mean, there's a lot of buildings going on up there. Is it gonna
You
make?
talking about on Fifth Street over, the east end of town?
it
Yeah.
smells.
The smelts and all
Yeah,
that?
it smells.
That doesn't, well,
I mean, there's a lot of. there's
Traffic.
let me
traffic.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase, let me start with saying that
5-lane traffic.
when we have a 7 to 10 inch rain like we had this last month or last year, our whole system is inundated with stormwater. So down on 9th Street, manholes bounce, and we have a fountain, because we have a hole on top of our pipe down crossing the creek, that we have to fix. But everything is inundated, so in those kind of rains, it doesn't matter what's coming in, we're gonna have a problem. But on a normal day, a normal operating day, normal today, tomorrow, yesterday, everything that's happening on Fifth Street won't hurt us, because it goes right down into our south side trunk that goes right to the treatment plant. So everything on that end is not hurting us. Actually, the car wash helps us, because we didn't have to replace that sewer line was carried over the creek that we was gonna have to replace. We was able to put in what they call an inverted sewer, the only one Washington has, that goes down and actually has about a 2.5% increase to get back to the manhole. But because we get so much volume from the car wash, that helps keep that clean and helps that work. You know, or proves it because we had the flow to do that. So flow is good, flow is bad. I mean, in one
Because there's
case it
gonna be a
helps us,
lot
in
of
other
stuff
cases-
that's gonna come off the streets. I mean, just a rain.
Well, yeah, storm and all that, yeah, that's a whole nother ballgame. And that hits the creek, which then causes, everything in front of Washington causes backups in Washington. So the more water you put in, was that St. John's, is that Bush Creek? That's Bush Creek, isn't it? That's not St. John's. Which one is that? Whatever that creek is. So if we put more on that, on the east end of it, it causes problems.
Yeah, 'cause
Because
it-
volume, it's just a volume thing.
Because the old school that used to be there, they had flood problems.
Yeah,
And
they flooded a couple times, because of the creek coming up. 9th Street, all that down on East 9th Street, they all have backflow preventers.
Yeah.
But when the creek gets up, it's not the sewer that gets them, it's the creek that comes in on them and gets them.
and water wins.
Yeah,
I mean, you
So,
can do a lot of stuff, but
How
water
many
wins.
locations does the sewer go under the
Sounds
railroad?
very French.
The sewer goes under the railroad tracks at the treatment plant. Sewer goes under the railroad tracks at Madison Avenue. Sewer goes under the railroad tracks at Burnside. The sewer goes under the railroad tracks at Madison. And the sewer goes under the railroad tracks in 2 places at Front Street.
Jefferson?
Market, it goes under the railroad tracks, and just west of Market where we had the big cat collapse.
Right.
It goes under, that's the main trunk line goes under there. There's
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
8-inch line that goes underneath it, Market. So we've got 6 crossings. We only have agreement to be under the railroad tracks with 1.